Well, welcome to the Jefferson County Board of Education regular meeting on July 24th, 2023. If you'd please join us for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And before we start the meeting this evening, we're going to have a moment of silence for Ms. Carr, and I believe, Ms. Bratton, you wanted to call for that?
Yes. I would like to call for a moment of silence for Millicent Carr. She was a lifetime member of our community. She was a bus driver for Jefferson County Schools. She coached children in different leagues in our county, and she will be terribly missed. Please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you, Ms. Skinner, and thank you to the public.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have the Deputy Superintendent of Instructional Support, Mr. Dave Banks. Good evening, Mr. Banks, whenever you're ready.
Good evening. Are you able to hear me this evening?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. I would say it's good to see all of you, but I can't see any of you. So it's great to hear you. I have with me this evening, Alex White is here tonight. We had just finished our summer experience, and I wanted him to come tonight to give you an update on how things went. So I appreciate Mr. White being here. I'll turn it over to you, Alex. Go ahead.
Good evening, and thank you, Mr. Banks. I would first want to say thank you for inviting me to be here this evening to share a bit about the summer experience. I endeavor to share my screen, though I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it, but I'm going to go ahead and do that in the event that you can. Just one moment to do that.
Mr. White, it's working. We can see your screen. Thank you.
Oh, very good. Okay, well, so our summer experience ran for 5 weeks this year, and it started on June the 12th and ran until July 21st, which was just on Friday. So we just very recently wrapped up the experience. It was another tremendous and successful year. The images you see across the top of the screen are not stock photos. Those are photos that I took when I went to go visit the kiddos throughout the duration of the summer. As you can see, lots of fun to be had. But I'd like to just start with this overview. Again, this is the third year that we have offered the summer experience in the form that we've come to know for all students in grades kindergarten through 12th grade. Again, we were able to provide full service transportation to and from each of the 5 locations this year. As students came, they were served breakfast and lunch. And this year, as we have in years past, we were able to offer the program in person and also virtually for students who were not able to come and join us on site. And then finally we were able to provide summer employment for almost 130 staff members who were all employees of Jefferson County Schools to begin with. So just wanted to point that out. Starting with the high school overview, we had around 345 students this year that were able to join us for some type of a credit recovery experience. And about half of those, about 170, came on site to the Wildwood campus. And when they were registering to be with us, they had the choice of being an in-person learner, where they could take part in a traditionally taught teacher-led course, or they could choose to be an in-person learner that was on the computer, which, using Apex, which is the credit recovery model that we've used for the past number of years, not just during the summer, but also during the school year. And then the other half of the students, or about 175 of them, chose to join us virtually. And we used Edgenuity as the platform in which we were able to still offer credit recovery coursework to keep students on track to graduate with their cohort. And then I also just wanted to mention that even though the summer experience is designed for credit recovery purposes, by and large, again, we were able to offer to high school students original credit options. We gave them that opportunity. Both PE and health were offered at no cost to students. And then if they wanted something else, like a math or a science or something like that, we were still able to afford them that with a nominal fee, also using the Edgenuity platform. So that was pretty popular. And then the middle school program was also located at Wildwood. Thankfully, we have a nice sized building there at Wildwood Middle School with 3 floors. So we were able to house both the high school program and the middle school program under one roof, keeping them separate on different floors of the building. But with the middle schoolers, we had about 130 participate in a full day program. And of them, there were 80 students who were there because they may have failed a class during the school year, and they were looking for course recovery, either in English, math, science, or social studies. And that was so that they could remain eligible for promotion. Now, the other 50 students that were there, they did not fail a class during the school year, but it was really important to us that we bolster the enrichment portion of the program. I took some of the feedback that I got last year, and I really built on that so that we could have students who, just because they didn't fail anything, could still come and feel welcomed into the program and have a safe place to be during the summer and have some fun too. So I'd like to draw your attention to the pictures at the bottom of the screen. You can see on the left, the Activity Club was one of our enrichment programs. And that is an inflatable Gaga ball pit that they're playing with there. The center picture is a real photograph of a trail cam footage from the outdoor club. They set up the camera on the back property of Wildwood Middle School, and they captured footage of a white-tailed doe during the unit where they were learning about the flora and fauna that are native to West Virginia. And then there was a science class there on the right. But in addition to what you see here, we also had a movie club and a science club and a PE class for students to enjoy themselves. Continuing on with our elementary portion of the program, we had 4 separate sites this year, including Blue Ridge Elementary, Page Jackson Elementary, Ranson Elementary, and Shepherdstown Elementary. Across to those 4 locations, we had about 650 students joining us in grades kindergarten through 5th grade. And you can see there we had a number of themes, one for each week of the program. We also took a couple of field trips this year with our youngest learners, including one to Starbase, which is put on by the National Guard, and then another one to San Michael's Park. And speaking of, I'm sorry, I'll get ahead of myself. A couple of pictures, and these were some of the common activities we did during the Fun in the Sun week, which was just last week. On the left, you see the students took pizza boxes and turned them into homemade ovens using the sunlight to roast s'mores. And on the right, you see our friends at the Citizens Fire Department with some water activities as a culmination last Friday for our friends at Page Jackson. That was a crowd pleaser. Speaking of San Michael's Park, just a moment ago, I wanted to point out some of our community partnerships. We had Jefferson County Parks and Recreation come with their mobile recreation van, which you see pictured here. And if you're not familiar, the mobile recreation van travels to communities, or in this case, school sites, and brings recreation equipment for students to enjoy. They have things like inflatable miniature golf, if you could imagine that, inflatable archery. They have jumbo Jenga, cornhole, and a variety of other activities. So they come in, they set up, they provide some supervision, and then they tear down and move to the next site. And with their partnership, we were able to visit each of the locations multiple times per week. And then AlphaBest was our partner for providing before and after childcare. They've been with us for a number of years during the summer experience as well. And this was especially important for families who might work early in the mornings or perhaps late into the evening. Children were able to be dropped off as early as 6:30 a.m. and the latest pickup time was 6 o'clock p.m. So we had a vast number of families opt for the childcare services through AlphaBest so that they could continue working without interruption. So in conclusion, I just wanted to highlight that this program allowed hundreds of high school students the opportunity to recover course failures, which put them on track to graduate on time, provided multitudes of families a safe and stimulating learning environment for the elementary learners, which was particularly helpful for working families in need of supervision for their children. And it offered meals, socialization, and academic remediation at no cost to families, which helped prevent achievement gaps. Any questions about the 2023 summer experience?
Hey, Mr. White, I just have a question. This is Lori Ogden on the line. If you could do us a favor, I know in past years, since obviously school just ended, we would still need some time to kind of gather all that data. But in the past years, giving this presentation, you've given us the number of students who are involved in each specific thing, and then who was able to gain that credit recovery and who was not, and what our percentages were. Based on how many courses there were and what courses they were. So if you get a chance to do that, you know, in the coming weeks, as we begin to look at that data, if you could provide that, that would be awesome for those different 3 levels. So we know what was the best option and where do we go forward from here.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Ogden. I agree. I'm a bit of a data nerd myself, so to speak. And so I really am fascinated by those numbers. And once they've been compiled, I would love to share that with each of the board members so that you can kind of see you know, the most popular classes and in which particular platforms seem to do the most. But historically speaking, summer experiences provided tremendous, very high percentiles of success rates. We're talking low to mid 90s of students who, if they go, there's a very high chance of success in earning the credit.
Yes. Yes, yes. I know what you shared previously. It's been really good to see it. There was a good success there. So yeah, that sounds great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I have a statement. Yeah, I'd heard from a lot of teachers how well summer school was going this year, especially at the high school. Teachers said that they are able to spend a lot of time with students, and apparently Mr. Carpenter has been extremely supportive of the teachers, and he's really quick to take care of issues in an effective manner. So I don't know who usually does things, but a lot of compliments. So it sounds like it was a big success.
Thank you for that. And I'll make sure that I share that with Mr. Carpenter. I agree and appreciate his willingness to help out for the past 2 years, actually. Anything else for me?
Thank you, Mr. White. We really appreciate you and your team and the group effort that it takes to put this summer experience on. I mean, from the teaching staff to the cooks and the bus drivers. I mean, it's not just teaching the kids, it's getting them there and feeding them and just all of the little pieces that are put together to make the whole puzzle and make it work. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
And I appreciate the opportunity to share with you. We start planning this in the wintertime in early February. So to see it come to fruition is rewarding. So thank you for allowing me to be here tonight.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Banks, did you have anything else for us?
No, ma'am. Thank you for your time this evening.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right. Next, we have citizens' comments, and I believe Miss Bobby Block is the first one. Ms. Block, can you hear me?
You're coming in and out. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I can hear you loud and clear. So whenever you're ready, feel free to start.
Okay. I'm having problems breathing, so if you could give me a couple minutes to just kind of catch my breath or take someone else before me.
We'll wait
Is
just
that
a moment.
possible?
Yes, ma'am. We'll wait just a moment for you to catch your breath because I believe you're the only public comment this evening.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Good evening. The Jefferson County Board, as is an essential government entity, needs to express the vital role schools play in the healthy growth of our community. And in turn, the community plan needs to reflect the importance of protecting human health, especially the children, the environment, and future generations. Uniting together in the spirit of the Golden Rule will benefit all those concerned. Urging the BOE to reach out to the Planning Commission as soon as possible, informal discussions, as well as participation in formal testimony will be a way of highlighting collaboration and overcoming polarization and toxic pollution before it occurs. It would be a wonderful way to welcome the new superintendent, creating mutually beneficial pathways for all parties, developing the overall win-win mode of operation, which can hopefully manifest in living and giving in Jefferson County. As discussed in previous testimony, the West Virginia State Board of Elections has clearly outlined regulations that create a safe zone relating to the location of public schools. Understanding that this does not require a city to follow these regulations, yet the local BOE is mandated to follow them. However, I am publicly going on record on behalf of the children, especially those children with asthma and special needs, that Jefferson County, at minimum, is morally obligated to take the West Virginia Board's policies under advisement and comply with the due diligence that ensures positive action to protect the health and welfare of our children, families, and school system. You have the opportunity to envision and enact a safe and thriving zone promoting clean air, water, and a healthy environment we all deserve. Jefferson County can unite to go on record clearly stating the prohibition of toxic pollutants, the increase of gaseous streams from large truck traffic, and constant incessant noise that can prove to be detrimentally situated near public schools. As shared before, I am humbly willing to voluntarily share my talents to the best of my abilities to compassionately and respectfully facilitate positive movement for the sake of the children and families. The surveys and public hearing included in the design of the comprehensive plan.
Thank you,
Can
Ms.
be viewed-
Block. Thank you. Next up, we have the approval of the minutes from the July 11th, 2023 meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from July 11th, 2023?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden.
I'll
Mr. Osborne?
second that.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Bratton.
Mhm.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes from July 11th, 2023, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next up, we have the consent agenda. Ms. Loring, welcome.
Yeah. Hi, thank you. Thank you. Good evening. Tonight, just on the personnel actions, we have an appointment on 32 to rescind. So we're asking for that to be deleted from tonight's consideration for the board. So that's 32. appointment.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, removing number 32?
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second,
I'm sorry, who was that?
Mrs. Ogden.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Ogden. All right, any discussion?
Yeah, I have a concern about item 27193 and 240331. It adds up to $83,000 for an insurance company, or I'm sorry, a law office that pretty much every other, at least every other board meeting, we are paying for this legal services, even though the board decided that this particular company wasn't serving the board properly in the past. So I'm concerned that we're still that I'm still seeing this law office on the consent agenda. I mean, it's pretty much every board meeting. And the most recent, like I said, 83,000. And I know that previously I was told that these are old cases, but I know that several are new cases. So I don't understand why we are still using this in legal office. And I'm sure you know which legal office, so.
Bear with me just a moment. I'm looking it up now.
Yeah, it's the one I always complain about. 27193.
Yep,
That's $3,000, and then 240331, 80,000. I guess they weren't on there last time, but the time before, when I voted against the consent agenda, they were on there.
Do you know what page of the,
No, but they're pretty much in alphabetical order. So it's like the S's.
for $3,038.40?
That's one of them, yeah. And then later, there's another one. I just don't understand why we still use this legal office when there have been so many complaints from board members. And so perhaps I'm not sure who is hiring this legal office, but maybe everybody needs to know that the board said they weren't using that legal office anymore.
Well, that might be a question for, I'm not even sure what exactly that case is, but maybe Dr. Bishop could follow up on it with Ms. Moss or even Ms. Loring to try to figure out what it's for. All right, so are there any other questions or discussions about the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, removing number 32, say aye.
Aye.
I just saw Mr. Osborne. Was there anybody else that said aye?
Mrs. Ogden said aye.
Okay. Opposed?
Opposed.
Ms. Bratton, was that you as well?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. So it passes.
Until we get that straightened out, I oppose it. Yes.
All right, that passes 3-2. Thank you. Next, we have unfinished business. First up is approval for a vendor for consultative services for TA Lowry for the 23-24 school year.
Morning, good evening, Miss Skinner. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Wink.
Thank you for allowing me to come to the board tonight. With me, I hope in the wings, I have Miss Martin, principal at TA Lowry, and also Dr. Ebersole, director of federal programs and all things money-based for us. So back in May, I came before the board and asked for permission to put an RFP out for instructional best practices as associated with the CSI ATS school designation. So earlier in the year, again, TA Lowry was brought up and made known that they were a comprehensive support and improvement as an additional targeted support school. That is one layer away from being a CSI school. So in working with Dr. Ebersole as well as Ms. Martin, we put a bid out for consultative services. We did get one bid back, Educational System Solutions. It is my recommendation tonight in asking that the board approves ESSI for $64,250. A little bit of background on ESSI. It is a West Virginia-based company. Currently, they are working with 10 other West Virginia districts that are under either CSI or CSI ATS status for special education. Mr. Withrow, the owner, is and president, has served as a school turnaround and school improvement specialist for the West Virginia Department of Education. So we feel that he does understand the ins and outs of what West Virginia education policy is all about. The estimate will be covered entirely by the grant that Mrs. Martin's school received. So there will be no funds that are taken out of federal or local funding. Everything will be covered there. And I would like to give Ms. Martin an opportunity to say anything that she would like with regards to this, because it is her school that will be taking advantage of this. So Ms. Martin, are you there?
I am. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to talk. We are very excited to have ESSI on board if this is approved. The support from them and the knowledge we are very appreciative of. And our three big areas of focus with ESSI and the CSI designation are to bring in co-teaching and a co-teaching model with our special education students and increasing both student engagement and also the rigor in the curriculum. So we are very appreciative of their support and look forward to working with them this year. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Skinner or other members of the board, we will entertain any questions at this time that you may have.
I have a question. I was just curious, is something like this, is it something that goes out for bid, or how does that work? Like, how did you find this company?
Yes, ma'am. It does have to go out to bid because it is over the financial threshold. So this did have to go out for bid. And then also when we go to different conferences, whether it's the CASE conference or the CEC conference, we do intermingle, we do talk, we do have director meetings every month at the state level. So we're all commiserating on concerns that we have for our district and looking out for best practices that other people might have. So this is where Mr. Wither also came up to us at.
So you got more than one bid, you're saying?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
No?
The only response that we got was from ESSI.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Wink and Ms. Martin. Is there a motion to approve Education System Solutions for the Best Practices CSI ATS School Designation for TA Lowry for an amount of $64,250.
I move to do so.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Joy. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Oh,
Sorry,
Ms.
Kath,
Bratton,
just,
questions?
I just had a really quick question. Just because Mr. Wink was breaking up just a hair, I want to make sure I had what I needed. This is a service that we have to have, right? This is a, because of the designation of the school, we need to continue to promote that, so we need a service that can
So
do that job.
you were kind of
Is
breaking
that
up, Ms.
correct?
Ogden. You were kind of breaking up, but I think what you were asking me, so this service that ESSI is offering us is not, so we were given TA Lowry in the district were given a feedback plan of what things needed to be worked on to get out of the designation of a CSI ATS. At that point in time, then Dr. Ebersole, myself, Ms. Horning, Ms. Martin, and some of her team members got together and said, how do we best move the needle for TA Lowry and make things really be distinguished like they should be? This is where Ms. Martin identified that she needed support for coaching of co-teaching of rigor. So that's where she said, let's look for consultant purposes to come in and work with that. Ms. Martin really was given flexibility in terms of what do you want to do with the money, but she felt like this was the way to get the best bang for the buck and really turn the corner for TA Lowry.
I have a question.
Okay, that's that. And then just one more follow-up is that this is actually part of the funding that we already have approved in the budget for this year, correct? That we have some flexibility on how that funding could be spent. I think that you had brought that up several weeks ago when you were giving a report on that. And then, so this is something that has been chosen within those parameters.
Kind of. This was not in the budget that you approved as a board at any point in time. This was funding that is separate and outside of your outside of the budgets that was approved. This is something that the state says this is a different account altogether that must be used only for TA Lowry and only for the purposes of special education. So this, we did talk about this in May, but this was not in your grand budget that you approved. This did not, it was not a part of that.
Okay, yeah, but my point was it definitely is coming out of, it is not coming out of the general funds that we already approved. So you answered
Correct.
that the way I thought. So that's perfect. Thank you for that. I
I'm sorry,
appreciate
yes,
the clarity.
ma'am, correct.
No, that's perfect. Thank you.
I have a question. So I'm curious, does Ranson get that same option? It sounded, I thought you said it was a grant of some kind initially, but then you said it was only earmarked for TA Lowry. What about Ranson? I mean, are they getting something equivalent, or do they not have the same need?
So that's a great question. Dr. Ebersole, are you available that you can speak to that question?
I am. Thank you so much. I'm actually attending the CSI conference in Morgantown as we speak. And Ranson actually received a very large fund. Again, both of these projects, both at Ranson and at TA Lowry, are funded under a special Title I school improvement grant. Ranson is an actual CSI school, whereas TA Lowry is in a unique position requiring that additional targeted assistance. It doesn't rise to that level, but all of these projects are very generously funded through a special set aside earmarked by the federal government for school improvement under Title I. As you note, both TA Lowry and Ranson Elementary are both Title I schools.
I was just curious, is CSI the same as Invest? Because I saw a bunch of Jefferson employees at your hotel when I saw you. Are you taking the same conference?
Yes, Dr. Joy,
Oh.
all of the CSI schools also directly participate in the Invest conference. However, it
Oh.
bookends, it precedes the Invest conference on Monday, and then it concludes on Friday with special meetings exclusively for CSI schools.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Dr. Ebersol, can I just have one follow-up question? Do we provide this service then at North Jefferson or at Blue Ridge, the other Title I schools that we have?
We're indeed fortunate that we do not, because neither of those schools are designated for targeted assistance under this program. Ranson Elementary, in order to be identified as a CS school, must be among the 15 lowest performing Title I schools in the state. In the case of TA Lowry, they have the particular subgroup for special education. As you know, it's a magnet program for our school system. So therefore, they as a Title I school have this unique designation related solely to special education.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Ebersol. So there's a motion on the floor to approve education system solutions for the best practices CSI ATS school designation for TA Lowry for $64,250. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you very much. Next up, we have to approve a vendor for district flooring.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Mrs. White.
We are asking this evening that you approve our RFP for flooring for district services. It's priced out in the following ways. This would allow us to conduct business without coming and asking you continually for requests for proposals, and just make the business on our end a lot smoother. So the demo and removal of flooring would be 30 cents a square foot. Installation 60 cents per square foot. The trim and install 55 cents per square foot. And this would be locked in for the duration of the RFP, which is for 3 years, and then it has the possibility of being extended to 5 years. So we view this as a smart move and a good deal. So this evening we ask that you approve the district flooring. Sherwin-Williams is the successful and the only bidder.
Thank
Oh,
you.
wait.
Is there
Yeah.
a motion
Go
to
ahead.
approve? I'm sorry, Mrs. White, did you have something
No, I was
else?
just going to say I'll wait your motion. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Madam Chair.
That's okay. Is there a motion to approve Sherwin-Williams for the flooring projects?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Mrs. White, this is for flooring replacement. This is not necessarily for new flooring at the new schools.
This is not for
correct?
new flooring at the new schools. This is for flooring replacement in our existing facilities.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, just real quick. So that would include basically, what are they looking to include in that price? Wood, tile, and laminate, or just carpet, or what kind of encompasses that price for us?
We are moving away from carpets in our school due to the allergens and just the upkeep. So it would include all the above that you just mentioned, with the exclusion of carpet.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approving Sherwin-Williams for the flooring projects at a price of demo 30 cents per square foot, install 60 cents per square foot, and trim install 55 cents per foot. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, thank you very much, Mrs. White.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have the HR Advisory Committee report. Good evening, Ms. Parker.
Good evening. Is it my turn?
Yes, ma'am, whenever you're ready.
Hi, so I'm one of the chairs of the Human Resources Committee, and we were tasked generally to look at how it was functioning And we had 18 people participate. That included teachers, parents, principals, and even HR specialists and community members as well. My co-chair is Jessica Jaco, as a member of the community, and also we had our secretary, Dana Jurshak, that helped keep us all organized, and our researchers were Barbara Zing and Glenn Simpson. And as you can see from the list, there's quite a number of people that helped to prepare this. As you know, we were not given any particular direction. So we just started with our committee to kind of figure out where to go. And we used surveys. We met with HR multiple times. We also emailed principals. We had employees approach us to tell their story with human resources. And so I wanted to start out by sharing the PowerPoint we put together to make it a little bit easier for you, but there is also an attached report that's 19 pages long. Do you have access to that?
Yes, ma'am, we do. And Mr. Fogel, if you could share their presentation, do you have it?
Dana, can you, Ms. Jurshak, can you mute yourself?
I cannot.
Okay.
I'm trying.
Okay. All right. She's on, and I hope Jessica Jaco is also on. I don't have a list of who all is on, but if I have additional questions, I may call on them during my presentation.
Ms. Jaco is on, so.
Okay, great.
We're here. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen that has the PowerPoint here, if I can get it to come up. Okay. Alrighty. Here's all of our people that helped. I just want to give a special thanks to them. We've met very diligently 9 times and multiple times with HR, and they've been very much a partner in creating this document. Although on some things we don't entirely agree, but they are already working on some of the suggestions that we've come up with as a district. So, or as not as district, as a community advisory committee. We definitely acknowledge that there is a teacher shortage, and there's lots of policy and law that can really hamstring our human resources. There's turnover that our county faces, being close to other places that pay more, that have better benefits. So there's a constant revolving door in our county. So this creates no small challenge for our human resources. We did find things that worked well. We found our benefits person was very professional, responded quickly, knew what she was talking about, initiated contact with employees. She's really does her job very well. We also noted that the human resources was willing to work with us. They met with us, they answered lots of questions. They were already taking notes on some ideas that we found that would help with to cut down on all the emails that they're experiencing. And then we have some suggestions for improvement, which I'll kind of go through in a 3-tiered kind of method. The first tier being something to address immediately is our suggestion. And then the next tier within 6 months, and the last tier within 12 months. And then there's the political component, which they're not at liberty to lobby as an HR for change. But maybe that's something the board could do with other boards. I don't know exactly what the legal restrictions are for that. So that's how we have organized our findings. So what I mentioned before, they're very flexible, open to suggestions, caring, compassionate. People really do work for us. We have some unique challenges here. What we found areas for improvement were information, communication was huge thing that came up again and again from committee members and employees that sought us out to share their experience with HR. HR also mentioned a lot of repetitive emails, and so we have suggestions for the website. And the last one that we found that was challenging is that the response time was just taking too long, weeks, months, and sometimes never responded to emails. And also, there's no organizational chart. The job descriptions are incomplete. The seniority lists are out of date. And with things going in and out a lot because of, again, where we live and the turnover, this may mean they may need another person to help them with this. Or we just need to find a way to streamline processes. And so that's the concept for ideas for improvement. So we have it organized in, like I said 3 tiers, but the 4th one is partnering with people that can make the changes on a state level that can be redundant. For example, certifications. The certification specialist for our state or for our county told us that she gets notified 4 times a year of all the employees that need certification. So she then passes that information to those employees who then I'll respond to her, so she can get upwards to 200 emails just in a matter of a few hours. It becomes really challenging. So our first recommendations is, and that we would implement as quickly as possible, is an HR audit. And we suggest that this be completed by an outside agency. As you can tell from our committee members, we are mostly made up of Jefferson County school employees. And so some might argue that we have some bias. So an outside agency could truly help us to identify what we're really looking at. How much time are we spending on emails? How much is our service personnel representative doing? How much is our benefits person? How many emails are we getting? Just to quantify all of this. So that's our recommendation there. Our website is very difficult to navigate. I've been toying with this idea of giving you 30 seconds to see if you could actually find job descriptions or the hiring policy. But I'm going to spare you that. But I did it just before you guys came on, and it's just there's a 403-page document of all policy lumped together. What I hope to see is that parsed out in a way it's navigatable, if that's the word, findable. So I'd love to see some frequently asked questions on there, some videos of how to do, of whatever we're asking them to do, to just make it more multimodal, quick, easy, click, and we got information. Currently, it's a challenge. And then the last suggestion for the first tier is the ticket system. So just like the tech ticket, we're suggesting that emails be organized that way. So I don't know if you've seen a tech ticket. Sorry, I kind of was going off my head, not the PowerPoint. So I apologize. Okay, so here's a tech ticket. So where you can kind of select a category and a topic. This system we already have in place, but we're suggesting that the human resources also access something like this, where we can set things for urgency, for specific needs, recertification, benefits, service personnel, etc., grievances, and we could even mark an urgency level. So this can be reviewed by administration. They can see where is all the traffic, where do we need to train more, where do we need to improve, whatever it is. because our county policy is we should get a response within 3 days. And I think any employee would be thrilled with just 1 week. But it is, the emails are a lot for them with their current staffing. All right, so that's our tier 1 recommendations. Our tier 2 recommendations is supporting our long-term subs and our service personnel. After a set period of time, say 2 years plus in the teaching, it would be really wonderful for our wonderful for our long-term subs to feel valued by Jefferson County Schools by having access to the same benefits. Now, they do receive dental, vision, and access to health, but they do not receive any of the bonuses, micro badging, or retirement. So I know that they had started looking at this with Dr. Gibson as a plan to retention plan. So those things I think have been thought of in a preliminary way, but I believe policy needs to be changed for that to happen. Another concern that HR had was that the long-term subs didn't know what they needed to do to get certified. And she found herself being a guidance counselor, so to speak, for certification. So a suggestion was made from the committee that sometime that the professional developments throughout the year could be offered to long-term subs and also for service personnel to obtain these certification, follow up on that, how is it going, kind of having time with them so they don't have to track them down and play the email game. And also our service personnel, a new law has passed that's mandating something called an ECAT, which essentially is an early childhood education assistant teacher, kind of a certified position. So that is now being required in kindergarten, first grade. Next year will be second, also, and third required in the third year of that implementation of that law, if I understand it correctly. So professional developments could be used to help both with converting our long-term subs into certified teachers and also to help our service personnel to become certified. They're begging for access to core knowledge, language, art training, and also science of reading so that they can truly help the students that they serve in an aid position. The other thing we recommend in 6 months is the job postings and hirings. When we met with Amy Lauren, she told us we have 90 long-term subs currently in Jefferson County Schools. I hope that's less now since we talked. But things aren't posted. Right now, there are tons of jobs posted, but that's still only half of the positions that need to be filled for the upcoming school year. So the concern is the reposting times. If no one applies, they told us we can't just leave a position posted forever. They told us that legally we can't do that in our meetings. So we would love to see a quicker reposting. And we've heard both sides of this, where Human Resources is telling us it's the principals that need to initiate that, and then they'll put it up, and the principals are saying, no, they should just put it up if we haven't filled it. So there's some confusion over that reposting time. So we'd like to see clear timelines. And people would like to know if they didn't get the job. That also needs to be something, because they apply, but they don't hear if they got it or didn't get it. Well, they probably hear it if they got it, but I mean, if they didn't get it, they just kind of wait and wait and wait. Or if they've applied once to that job and then they've reposted it, they're not showing under that job. So even though they've already applied for it. So it's a confusing process. And so perhaps our HR audit would have some suggestions for that, but it's a headache to a lot of employees. that are not just trying to switch jobs or trying to apply for jobs, different jobs, but also for people that are coming into, we hope, work for us. Our job descriptions on our website, if anybody look for it, you might find them buried there, but there's nothing for teachers and department chairs in that job description. Sometimes there's delays in getting tuition reimbursement for micro-credentials, so that could definitely be evaluated and reformatted to get that more efficiently done. Micro-credentials, what department is that under? We have two separate times the human resources said they were managing it, but then in the most recent communication, they're not managing it. So again, this would be a great start for HR to like sort out, streamline programs, figure out where things are that the audit could help in that process. In the report, you can see that the HR manages quite a few programs, and we wonder how many of those are still being utilized, how many of those are automated, and how many of those really do require a ton of maintenance and such. So those things, again, for the audit would be really helpful. Okay, so sometimes people need to talk to HR and they're not always available. Voicemail is full, or you don't have time to come in during the workday. So it was suggested as one of the recommendations that there might be some flexibility in their schedule. Maybe one night a week they're open late, or continuing across training, which they say they do, but like if say the benefits person goes on vacation, heaven forbid, who could do that job while she's gone? You know, so they typically allow the specialist to come back to it, but it can be frustrating for the employees that are waiting, sometimes time sensitive information. All right, so that is tier 2. And then our last tier is our office space. Right now they're meeting kind of in a hallway, and a lot of that, sometimes the conversations is confidential and private, and they expressed concern about that in one of our meetings, which we support. But wherever they end up, they do need to be near payroll because they are connected in that sense. All right. We suggest also to expand relationships with Blue Ridge Community College and Shepherd University to recruit more subs. All substitute positions to all majors, not just education majors. So after having a 2-year degree or 60 credits, a college student could be one of those short-term kind of emergency subs, which could help relieve some of the burdens that are on teachers right now to cover classes during their plannings. Some other suggestions would be to amend some of the retention and recruitment plan to include a free badge replacement, maybe awards for 3 years of service, or even reimbursement for praxis if passed, limited, of course, to 3 attempts. Again, this is also something with the ability to evaluate and remove redundant platforms. There's a huge long list in our report that you can refer to. It sounds very difficult to manage all those with the employees that they currently have. They suggested that a human resource software program might be helpful, but then it would need to be bridged with our approved programs and obviously approved for that. And then recruitment. Recruitment is a challenge. And it's ongoing because if we lose people. I think it was said in one of the emails that in the past 5 years, we've had 50% turnover in our employees. And that's significant. And that's hard to keep up on, both even just the website and the lists and the seniority lists. There's constant of that going on. So they may need I don't know if they need an extra person for that, but we are putting quite a bit into human resources financially when compared to ours from the other counties, which is also a cost comparison in the report. But whatever efforts we do, we need to make sure that they're paying for themselves. So if we're going up to Pennsylvania to recruit and we get one person and we've spent $100,000 in time and effort and time away, is that worth it? I don't know, 100,000 maybe. Ridiculous. It probably is, but we need to look at the balance of those two things. I think our biggest resource are our parents. They live here already. They're invested in their schools. I know several of you have children in the school system, and you're invested, and so are parents. So that's where our committee's recommendation suggests a larger emphasis be put on recruiting parents by attending PTO meetings and try and recruit from there, principal recommendations, having flexible schedules for HR so that they could do that in the evenings. It wouldn't have to be all the time, but certainly our parents are our greatest resources. How many of you have ever heard of a grow your own program? So yeah, we got a couple, yay. So we have at Washington High School, there was a couple of them this year, and one of which is staying with us. And so essentially they start their training early in their high school years, and then they're paid as they go. More details and links to that is in the document. But we're going to have to be creative in this national teacher shortage. And again, emphasizing the parents. They're probably the only ones that will work for almost nothing, and they are vested in our schools and the success for our children. And the last thing here is what we talked about, political action. I understand from human resources that we tried to be an area where we could pilot a 4-day work week, but it did not pass, is what we heard from human resources. So I've included the research that supports this. Locality pay is a no-brainer as well. We live in an area that costs more, so those things they make sense. And automated state reminders of certification deadlines. I don't know that needs to go through HR. I'm not sure what more they can add other than you got to get it done. So it feels like an extra step for them. And they, I'm sure, will be able to provide a better list of what would help them on a political stage, but they're not allowed to lobby or do those things. And I'm not sure if the Board of Education has that ability, but since you're a political body, that's possible that you might be able to partner with other boards of education to get some things, which you probably already have been doing. So again,
Heidi, I'm gonna jump in real quick. We separated this into a 4th tier because of the complications surrounding the political nature, because of the fact that a lot of what HR does currently is dictated by the law and what goes down in Charleston. If we want to change any of that, we are going to have political action committees within the community that is striving and going towards changing some of those laws or those procedures. Some of the things that are dictated go all the way down to what programs HR is using for the hiring and for any of the systems that they need to take care of. So some of the control is all the way to the minute detail, and some of it is a huge envelope or umbrella, if you will. So when it comes to the political action, HR and the board office can't do this section. This is more of a you need to look into it, we need to research it, and there is a huge political aspect to hiring in the state of West Virginia. And I think that needs to be made very well known in order for people to understand the system and the hiring. because one thing that we did find was that our HR system was very good at being compliant and matching all of those laws. But that was what came from answers that we were asking because of complications or issues that we had for HR, and their hands were tied. So going back to some of the things that are beyond the control of HR and the HR department, we do need to kind of take this caveat and say that there's a huge part of it that is political and that is taken care of in Charleston. I'm sorry, Heidi, I just wanted to make sure that that was clear.
That's good. Thank you. Also, Jessica Jaco, do you have anything to add?
I do not have anything to add. Thank you though for checking.
Okay. So that kind of concludes our review of the human resources document. The document itself is much more detailed. Page 9 has the list of programs that would need to be streamlined in some way, and all the links to the information that we've suggested. So are there any questions?
I have some questions and clarifications and other things.
Okay.
So let's see. You did an amazing job. To go through the whole HR, it's incredible what you did. And then the way you presented it and gave it to the board and HR ahead of time, just it was outstanding. And so the other thing, let's see, a lot of things that you suggested we need, we used to have all this. It's only been in the last, 6 to 8 years that they've kind of fell by the wayside. We used to have an organization chart. We used to have staggered hours in HR, 7 to 3, 8 to 4, 9 to 5, and it wouldn't cost any more money if just rearranged so we could be open from 9 to 5. Long-term subs do get levy checks, and if they are not getting them, they need to email. This is what I keep telling people that contact me. Several people that weren't getting their levy checks, email the board with Amy Loring, and then so we can see what's going on. But they are entitled to levy checks depending on the date of hire.
That's good news. I think policy in the retention plan said that hadn't been updated.
Yeah,
so
that's not the case. So until
okay, so it is.
it
That's
hasn't
great
been
news.
updated, we haven't changed it. The board hasn't changed that. So let me go. I have a list of things here. Oh, I think you didn't mention it tonight, but I recall in your report you may have asked for childcare. And the only issue with that, we used to have that, and employees complained. They said, maybe we should have elder care, or this and that. So then a solution was just give all employees higher more money in their levy check. So if they want to use it for childcare or elder care, they can do that. Let's see.
That makes sense. They did say that didn't apply to everybody and therefore couldn't be utilized, and that the current board was more putting money for retention into education, into micro badges, and of those things instead of childcare or even an attendance incentive.
Yeah, I think it needs to be presented to the board. It must have been a while. Let's see, the organization, potential employees never hearing back. I understand and agree with that. We used to send a letter out when employees weren't, when people were told they weren't going to be hired, but they're encouraged to reapply. So what else? The locality pay. I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, but a lot of that has to do with the unions, and Our local legislators want locality pay. I don't know any of our local legislators that I've spoken with in the past 8 years who don't encourage that. But you understand the problem. So
It's the state, yeah.
well, if the unions aren't going to ask for it, then who is, we have a small body here in the Eastern Panhandle.
So that would be a good political point, even with the unions, but yeah.
Yeah, if we're paying these unions, maybe ask them for help, but why would they, would they make all their money off all the rest of the state, and they don't want locality pay. Let's see.
So I have heard that they stay away from it because it shows favoritism over over another, but
Well,
obviously
that's
they
one
don't live
way-
here.
That's one way to look at it, or you can look at it as, where are we getting our bread and butter? If, we need to keep the majority happy. That's just my impression. I have a question. Did you ever look at the policy on hiring? Because up until at least a year ago, we were still following an illegal policy. It was against state code. And I don't know if you've ever looked at that, but the policy that I know, at least in October, that was being used was that, we have a certified teacher that applies for a job, and we tell them, well, we only got one certified teacher, so we're going to repost it. Now, it's not necessarily ever reposted, but even if it is, we only got one certified, so we're going to go with the long-term sub. We don't have to hire you. And that, I just want everybody listening to know, that is not what state code says. If there is a posting, if you have one certified teacher that applies, they leave it up for a certain length of time. They have to take it down and repost. If nobody applies, that certified teacher is entitled to that job. And that's very different from the way HR has been interpreting that. And
What is the code for that? What is the code number for that? So I can look it
off
up.
the top of my head, I've been in a class all day.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
No, I mean, I can look it up, but
Dr. Joy, we did look into a lot of the policies, and we did look into a lot of what was being done and what wasn't. However, we do hit a brick wall with the fact that there is a huge amount of confidentiality that, for instance, we wouldn't be able to look to see if a certified teacher or a long-term sub was hired versus the other because of the confidentiality piece of that. So that would be where that outside audit portion, I think, would come into play to make sure that that compliance is happening, because that's something that someone within our position as a community committee, or even within the county, there are certain rules that apply to what we can actually review as well.
Well, I know of 10 teachers certified who were not given jobs, and some of them went to Berkeley, some of them went other places. They clearly didn't go to Berkeley for more money. So they just went wherever they could get jobs. And anyway, so I agree that we ought to have an audit. I think that would be a wonderful use of our money, taxpayers' money. I think it would help a lot. But I'm just one board member. I think that's all my questions and comments. I really appreciate, the truth finally being revealed. Everybody knows I've been stating many of these things for many years, and I appreciate that I have not spoken with any of you. So I'm just elated that you found the things that, have been pretty clear for many years by a lot of staff. So I know that's not politically correct to say, but That's the truth. And hopefully this will move our system forward. Hopefully something productive will come of this. Hopefully an audit will be done and things can be improved. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I know our committee is grateful. It's a challenge. But you got the laws, you have the turnover. It's quite a challenge. And to their credit, they have listened to us. They've answered multiple questions. They've been in on Zooms, and they're already trying to get some of these suggestions that we have for the website going. So those are the things that were encouraging to us. And as the chair, we feel like this ends, I guess, our committee obligations, unless there's anything further you would like us to check into. We realize we're an advisory committee, so this is the advice we give.
I
And welcome.
would like to thank you for the very thorough job you did. That was very time consuming and very thorough. I think the confidentiality factor is very important that we need to look at as soon as possible. And I do agree that we should have an HR audit, because efficiency of that system is very important, and that will help us become much more efficient.
Then we'll have numbers to quantify.
I would also like to thank you and everyone on the committee for such a wonderful job, and also such a wonderful job at presenting the information to us. And I do agree that a HR audit should happen, just to make sure that, everything is being done the way it should, or if there's changes to be made, we can make those changes, however that works out. But I think that that's a great idea. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Parker, for all of the work that you and your committee did. We really appreciate it. And, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have board comments. Dr. Joy, do you have anything?
Yeah, well, I mean, or what's the process for, we've got 3 board members. Do we need to make a motion, or?
No, there's no action on the agenda this evening. But we're going to be meeting within the next month to set Dr. Bishop's goals. And so what we can do is consider, actions at that point in time.
Okay. Well, I have 2 things. Number one, I've been attending a conference to learn about the resources that are available to our school district to teach personal finance, because we do have that new law that says our students are required to get a half credit in personal finance instruction. So I have a lot of resources for Dr. Bishop to, consider, and the board. The other thing is, for this week's Employee of the Week, I am recommending that the HR committee, I want to recognize the whole HR committee this week, because that's the only recommendation I got this week until Mr. Carpenter, which that was kind of last minute, and I had gotten several compliments on the HR report. So I just want to give a shout out to the HR committee. So thank you. That's all.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Bratton?
Thank you. I would also like to thank Mr. White and Mr. Banks and everyone, the teachers, everyone who had anything to do with our summer school. It was an excellent program from what I understand. I have received a lot of compliments on a lot of people and a lot of what we did for the children. So thank you to everyone. And that's all I would have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Ogden? Mrs. Ogden, are you there? All right, Mr. Osborne?
I do not have anything at this time, but I would like to thank that committee for all the work they did.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Bishop, do you have anything for superintendent comments this evening?
Just a couple of items. So first, thank you to the HR Advisory Committee. I can tell you that upon receiving the draft report, the HR department got together and began to take a look at some of the items that were mentioned in the report, or the items that were mentioned in the report, and then provided some context, if you will, that is attached in board docs for your review. Those are not excuses. In many ways, they're realities. We have a lot of people at our central office. Our HR department works extremely hard, and I know the advisory committee recognized that. And there were a number of items that they mentioned that were going very well. With 1,300 employees approximately, there's a lot of traffic through HR, and I know Ms. Loring is committed to making things more efficient. We chatted about the draft report when we received it last week. So I know they're already working on some things, which Ms. Parker recognized already in her comments earlier. So I know we want to do better, and we're committed to doing that. The last 3 weeks have been a bit of a blur. I learned something every day. We have a lot of great people in our central office. I look forward to working with the folks in our schools more as they begin to come back. But as I meet one-on-one with our staff in the office, we have a lot of people who are truly committed to doing what's best for the students in Jefferson County. And I'm honored to be a part of that team. And I know we share a lot of the same goals, and I feel the same about our responsibility to our community. So that's all I have for this week. I'm sure in future meetings, my report will be a little bit longer.
All right, thank you very much. And if I'm correct, we do not have an executive session tonight.
Hey, Kathy, I have to apologize. I couldn't get myself on mute.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Did you have any comments before we adjourn, Ms. Ogden?
No, I was just going to thank you to everybody and looking forward to digging into wherever we need to figure out. I appreciate the art already make us for safety for the band camps that are going on this weekend as we get ready to get into back to school mode. So all the sports are starting up, and we've got a parade that the bands are in on the 19th across the county, and schools at Ranson Civic on the 17th. I think the ACP is hosting that. So just lots of things to get going. So thanks a lot.
All right, thank you very much. Then 7:24, meeting adjourned. Have a great evening.